Hey, this is Josh for Retooled.net, and in this video we're going to talk about relinking RED files to proxy files. Now, a few weeks ago I posted an article about some complaints I had with relinking proxies to R3Ds in Premiere and how that was so difficult. And this really doesn't change that, but it is a good workflow to help you be able to relink. Now, a few caveats. One is I haven't really put this into production. I've just done some limited tests, so please proceed at your own risk. The second caveat is that this requires organizing your footage at the beginning of your project. So if you're in the middle of a project, this probably won't help you. Now, before I begin, I want to give a quick shout out to the guys over at RED Comunicación. They sent me an email with this workflow and they're using it on their new film walls. So please check out their site. This was a great tip, and I wanted to pass along the tips so hopefully you guys can put it into production on your own films. We head back over to Premiere. Before I actually import anything, I'm going to need to do some organizational things at the Finder level. So let me show you what I have. This is, again, a really simple example, so please do some tests before you put it into production on your films. I'm only using a few files here. So I have a folder here of R3D files. And if you notice, they all end in _001. Now that's how Premiere will also import them. If I drag them into Premiere, even if these are spanned files, so if there was a folder with 001, 002, 003 in it, Premiere would span them for you, but it would still keep them all named _001. Now if we go over to the proxies that I generated from RED CineX, you'll notice they don't end in _001, which is part of the problem of where the relinking issues happen. So because the file names don't match, it's harder for Premiere to relink the two files. So I'm going to give you some instructions. Now, first thing you'll notice here on my R3Ds is that I took them out of all of their original folder structure. Now, I've read online that this shouldn't cause any issues with R3Ds because all of the information is actually contained in the .r3d and it doesn't really need the folder structure for anything. But again, please confirm that before you start messing with your original negatives. And of course, if you want to be safe, copy them to a new location instead of screwing with your original folder structure. That's always recommended. But what I'm going to do just to make the relinking easier is I'm going to take my proxies. Again, these are from RED CineX, and I've actually created an automator action to rename these files. Now you could do this by hand or you could use a bunch of other programs. You could probably even do this in Adobe Bridge. But I have this automator action and I'll upload this to the article so that you guys can do it yourself. I'm just going to double click on it and it's going to ask me for what folder I want to do this to. So I'm going to navigate to the proxy folder and I'm going to choose it, and it added the _001 to everything, including the automator action itself. So obviously if you're using this automator action, don't do what I did. Don't put it in the actual folder with your MOV files. But now you'll notice they're all called _001. So if I go back, at least the file names other than the extension will match. So the scenario, of course, is that you start cutting with your proxy files, and I'm just going to drop them onto a sequence. And I'm going to keep my existing settings, and I'm just going to right click and hit scale of frame size. That really has nothing to do with this relinking thing, but it'll give me better performance, so I'm going to click on it and just scale everything down to my 1920 1080 frame size. And you lock your edit and you're ready to do your color correct. And you want to go back to the original R3Ds to have the full latitude and frame size of those. Now I'm just going to move a few clips around to simulate that I've done my edit here. So brilliant, my edit is done. And now I want to go back to the R3D files. Now to do that, I could either do it in my timeline or I could do it in my project panel. And in either place I would select the clips and right click and hit make offline. Make sure I check media files remain on disk and hit OK. So now I want to link it up back to the R3D files. So I'm going to right click and hit link media. Now what exactly these settings should be was a little hard for me to figure out, and it was kind of random, and I'm not sure why these settings are what they are. I was able to get it to work using file name, media start, clip ID, obviously not file extension, and for some reason I had tape name unchecked, and I'm not sure why that had to be because that seemed to match. Of course, you should do your own testing and see what works for you. And then in terms of the settings on the right, I have align timecode, relink others automatically, and use media browser to locate. I don't have preserve interpret footage settings checked because I didn't do anything under interpret footage. So anyway, I'm going to hit locate right now, and I'm going to navigate to my R3D files. Now, one big caveat here is that they shouldn't be in the same basic folder structure. So I had the proxies in this Josh Red folder. I want to move the R3Ds into another folder that's sort of separate from that. So I have this original no folders where my R3D is stored. Now the reason for that is because if they were in the same folder, I might select the first file as an R3D, and then Premiere would automatically search for the other ones and find the MOVs in the proxy folder. And I don't want it to find those files, I want it to find the R3Ds. So you need to separate the folders by a few different levels. I'm not sure how many levels deep it will actually search for a related link. So anyway, I will select the first of these and I'll match the file name. If I check display only matched names, that won't work because even though I have file extension shut off over here, this dialog doesn't recognize that setting and it won't show me the file. So I just have to locate the first file, and hopefully I get a match, which it looks like I did. Now to make sure they're all relinking to the R3Ds, notice this still says MOV and these all still say MOV. Now in Final Cut 7 there was an option where you could right click and tell it to rename the clips to match the file name. In Premiere that doesn't exist. Hopefully it will one day, because right now it's showing me that all my clips are MOVs, when in fact if I right click on it and hit reveal in Finder, you'll notice it's actually linked to an R3D. Now a quick way to check that in the timeline is if I right click on a clip, I take a look at it and I hit source settings. If that setting isn't grayed out, I know that it's an R3D because you'll notice it says red R3D source settings. If it was a QuickTime, I wouldn't have that property. So let me just show you that. I'm going to do the whole thing in reverse. I'm going to right click, hit make offline, make sure to leave them on disk. Now I'm going to make sure I select them all again and hit link media, and this time I'm going to go back to the proxies. So I'll locate my proxy folder, select the first of the clips, hit OK, and now if I right click on any of them, you'll notice source settings is grayed out. So that is back to the MOV. So again, this is a bit of a bootleg workflow that you have to do on your own to organize your clips in Finder before you start editing. Ideally, Premiere would have a way of relinking to things with different file names, different file extensions that was a little more reliable. Now we have our product Relink Retooled, and that will relink from different types of files to MOV files. We don't support relinking to other types of files at this point. Now ideally Premiere would have metadata based relinking, so we could tell it to match the file name, or for instance in this file name to match maybe the first 12 characters to get rid of the underscore 001 or however many characters this is, so that we could have a proper relinking workflow based on metadata right in Premiere. But until that comes, this is not a bad workaround, and again, thanks to the guys over at Arena Comunicación for the suggestion. Hope this helps you guys. Let me know how it works out. And if you guys agree that Premiere needs some better relinking workflows, please send a feature request over to Adobe. We'll put a link in the article below. Thanks again. Be sure to check out our new product, Color Retooled, which is a set of looks presets for Premiere Pro CC. A ton of easy presets that you can use in Premiere and SpeedGrade CC to quickly edit the look of your clips. Everything from brightness and contrast to vintage effects to things like vignettes that editors can quickly add to their clips and keep working. Also check out Relink Retooled, our conform tool for Premiere and Final Cut that will let you conform to your QuickTime media of different durations and file names than your original media. You can use it with combinations of tape name, file name, and of course you could use partial tape name and file name combined with metadata like timecode and frame rate to help you relink your clips quicker and easier than ever before.